Thank you both so much for that care update. We'll be sure to check in with you again throughout the remainder of the show. Right now, we're going to welcome on our next guest, who is no stranger to our FreightWaves airs. We have Andrew Lockwood. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, glad to be here, guys.
So Andrew, jumping into it, this is an interesting topic. This is the return logistics and the logistics of return logistics. It sounds like an incredible headache. What's the latest in this industry, especially throughout the first half of the year?
Keyword there is headache. You hit it right on. You know what? Brian Strait had a great article earlier this week highlighting some of the stats and data behind returns. And right now, we're in a world where 1 in 5 online purchases is returned. And we know that data from the National Retail Foundation. But yeah, 20% plus of online sales are returned. 1 in 5. I mentally picture a FedEx and UPS guy saying, I literally just delivered this the other day. Surely I have to get frustrated. But no, it's a great topic, very pertinent because we know warehousing capacity is super tight right now. Freight markets certainly is a different story. But major retailers, large companies, they're wanting to bleed off inventory. And Anthony and Thomas, returns did not help this. It's going back to the warehouse. It's gumming up the system, and it's certainly a topic to talk through.
And looking at that, especially with these returns, 20% on a good day, coming into the holidays especially, and the surge in unwanted gifts and presents that people have, is there a real concern that by the time either these retailers or merchandisers chew through that extra inventory, that it's just going to flow back up the pipe and end up back inside their warehouses, further exasperating the problem?
There is, and that's why I want to talk about it now, because there's a couple different angles here from a shipper's viewpoint, from a logistician's viewpoint, managing a warehouse. There's this dichotomy where the further you discount something, the more likely people are to buy. But we also know that when there's impulse purchases, the more likely people are to return the stuff. So it's a double-edged sword. We know Target, Walmart, everyone's sitting on 40+% inventory from where they were a year ago. We talked about that a lot last month. So my prediction is from now and really through the end of the year, you're going to see some really good deals on items in the stores. Retailers are just trying to move that stuff along, especially in prep for Black Friday. So that's where we're starting to see that now at our local Walmart, at our local Home Depot. Items that have been sitting on the shelf that really need to get off the shelf in prep for the holidays are being drastically discounted. But this highlights the issue and the logistics cost issue of return. And then, from a shipper's standpoint, depending on what company you're with, you have to look at it from, is this return coming in store? Is this return coming through a parcel medium where there's additional parcel cost? So there's a lot of things to consider. Not just the additional storage that you've got to have for that inventory, but it really kind of comes down to your company's mindset on how you want to deal with them with returns and how easy you want to make that for customers, because it is absolutely a double-edged sword.
Almost makes me think that maybe in the future there will be this large structure with multiple stores where people go to try stuff out before they buy it. But I'm thinking of maybe in a distant universe here, or maybe to kind of fix this whole reverse logistics thing. But Andrew, it sounds like this is only going to get a lot worse. And really, sometimes I hear of outlets really being able to just say, you know what, forget about it, keep the goods, we'll give you back the money. We don't want to deal with it. Is this going to be likely a thing that's going to happen a lot more as we continue to get throughout 2022?
You hit the nail on the head, Anthony. So the number one reason people return things, 70% is incorrect fit. So you're exactly right that, that's, and then we know what those top reasons are that people return items. But it really gives retailers and shippers two strategies. One is Boris, and that's not Boris Yeltsin. It's buy online, return in store. That's a great strategy because when you get the person in the store, yes, like you've got to go through the process of returning it, and it stinks to restock it and go through that. But guess what? You've got the person walking through the store, buy all of your other things, and there's a much higher conversion rate where that person is going to keep their money in your store even if they're returning a specific item. Think about REI with that, right? I return it. They've got a generous return policy. But I'm walking next to all this cool camping and bicycling stuff, and I probably need something else. I'm going to walk out of the store with something. From You mentioned something very interesting with the just keep it strategy. And I want to dive into the logistics cost here a little bit. If we consider, and let's just take parcel out for a second, because maybe the average parcel cost is $10 for a return. But depending on, company strategy, that handling in for a fully loaded warehouse worker at $30, you're looking at 50 cents a minute that person is spending. So if they've got to walk a huge warehouse just to put that product back in the bin, you're looking at that time at 50 cents a minute. And then let's say it's going to be a quarter of a pallet size at $20 a pallet per month. You're looking at an additional $5 storage. So parcel cost on the side, you're looking at maybe $7.50 to $10 just for that return of one singular item. We know profit margins are kind of all over the place, but just considering a 4% profit margin, which is in line for a bricks and mortar retailer, you need to sell something for $188 just to break even on that return. So there's so many things to think about, and I think that's what is feeding this idea of the just keep it policy. Hey, we've got too much stuff in the warehouse. We ordered too much. Guess what? This thing you bought for $20, it cost us more to take it back in, warehouse it, or liquidate it. So just keep it. It's a very fascinating time we're living in, especially with just the idea of the just keep it policy.
I feel like I've done that with my used cars as well. After you've discounted the car so much and they gave me more money for it, it would be simply better to just keep it or give it to somewhere else. So is that like an actual looking forward? Do you think more people will do the just keep it strategy because this inventory sat so long? You normally have to discount it each quarter, which is the depreciation of the item because you're paying for that cost. You're paying for the warehousing. You're paying for the space. Is that something that more consumers should know about, thinking, hey, it actually costs them more and they lose money if I give it back. I'm just going to hang on to it versus, is there a strategy here? Is there an optimization I could potentially use to hold on to some stuff?
There is. Amazon championed this a couple of years ago, and they kind of set this whole idea in motion of, it does cost more to do the reverse logistics of this, so just keep it. Incentives drive behavior. And so we live in a time where we know to tamp down inflation, we just need to buy less. But that's not only on a personal level, that's on a business level too. The businesses have ordered way too much because they're afraid of losing their line at the manufacturing, there in Asia. And so we've all ordered way too much, both from a personal and a business level. Now we're in a state where, we just need to cut our losses. We need to bleed the inventory. I think especially this year, potentially next year, you're going to see major companies adopt this policy because it makes economic sense at the end of the day. Plus, I would add that there's a brand loyalty component. We know the companies at the top of our heads that have a generous return policy. And whether we've used that in the past, the truth is most consumers will look at a return policy, and that dictates their behavior for the good and bad. And so I think it's something for our shippers to think about of, what is your current return policy today? What are your actual costs? Whether you're using a 3PL for the transport and the storage of all these returns, whether you're liquidating inventory and just taking all of your sporting goods and putting on a pallet and doing a wholesale, it's something to think about, especially as we're in this day and age where everyone's looking at the bottom line and trying to gauge what is the best move, both from a customer loyalty standpoint, but also I need to get rid of this inventory standpoint.
Andrew, I think that's a great point that you mentioned there, because the first thing on my mind is just like, you know what? Just say all sales are final, deal with it, and cut your losses from there. But definitely a great point that you raised there of really being able to build out that brand loyalty and really retain a lot of those customers. If people want to reach out to you, continue this conversation with you, where can they find you?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. You can always find me there, Andrew Lockwood at Sudeth Global Logistics. I would love to talk about returns and reverse logistics and all things supply chain.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We'll be sure to check in with you again next week, I believe. Right now, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be right back with more Freight Waves Now.